A little over a month earlier, the death at Riverview Towers had been all over the local news. A woman found dead inside her condo, her body moved onto the balcony. Two degrading words written in red across the sliding glass door. No arrest. I knew more than the news had ever reported. Sneakers went on. I got inside a little after 10. She was in the shower. I used a cord, water all over the floor. She fought for a while, then she didn't. He described dragging her onto the balcony and writing on the glass. Boots interrupted now and then with a question. The woman above me barely spoke. I listened. The longer he talked, the stranger it felt. Not fear exactly, more like hearing someone describe a room you'd once stood in while putting the furniture in the wrong places. Some details were right, some were things anyone could have learned from the news, and some were wrong. The words on the glass, Boots said suddenly. You used blood? The sneakers shifted. Yeah. Hers? Whose else? Boots said nothing. My fingers tightened around the hammer. Wrong. Those words hadn't been written in blood. I knew that, but I couldn't know that. Not in any way an ordinary person should. I looked toward the black heels. Since the name Lena Tran first came up, the woman's left foot had barely moved. Now the toe started trembling. Once, then again. She was shaking. Sneakers kept talking. She added coming, married but still. The woman's heel struck the floor. Knock. He stopped. What? Nothing. Her filtered voice sounded cold. Her foot kept shaking. And I finally understood one thing. These weren't three people who happened to come home at the same time. They knew one another, or at least the names they used online. They were discussing murder the way other people discussed hunting stories. A dark web board, a private meetup, a house with a severed head in the safe. I hadn't broken into the wrong rich man's house. I'd broken into a meeting of killers. I let go of the hammer. What I needed wasn't a weapon, it was a way out. Right then, the woman's foot shifted. Something white slid across the hardwood. A small piece of paper. It stopped beside my hand. I looked at the heels. No reaction. I waited several seconds, then pulled the note underneath the couch. One line in tiny black handwriting. If you want to live, go to the bathroom by the stairs when you get the chance. My blood went cold. I read it twice. The woman sitting above me knew I was here. I stared through the dark gap beneath the couch. Her heels never turned toward me. She sat as if nothing had happened. I closed my hand around the note. One question replaced another. If she wanted to save me, why would a killer help a burglar? And if she didn't want to save me, what was waiting in that bathroom? He picked the wrong house to rob. What should have been a quiet burglary turns into a nightmare when he finds a severed head locked inside a safe and three masked strangers walk through the front door. Trapped inside a house built for killers, he has one chance to survive. Lie well enough to become one of them. But every story told that night hides another secret, and the deeper he digs into an unsolved murder, the harder it becomes to tell who is hunting whom. A locked house psychological crime thriller about masks, murder, and the stories people tell to stay alive. Chapter 1. Wrong House. I'm a burglar, and if I could go back 1 hour, I'd stay at least 3 blocks from that house. Not because the locks were good, not because of the cameras, not because the owner came home early, because what I found in the wall safe wasn't cash. It was a human head. The safe was old, recessed behind a landscape painting in a third-floor office. It took me just under 10 minutes to open. For most people, it would have been secure enough. For me, it was an inconvenience. The lock gave a soft click. Usually that sound means money, watches, jewelry, documents somebody thinks are worth hiding. I pulled the door open and got hit by the smell. I jerked backward hard enough to knock my flashlight against the desk. The beam jumped, skittered across the inside of the safe, and landed on a face. I froze. The head had been shoved sideways into a clear plastic bag that wasn't fully sealed. The skin had gone gray-green along the cheeks. One side of the mouth had drawn back enough to show teeth. The hair was pasted dark against the forehead. The eyes were still open. My hand shook. 2 spots of reflected light trembled in those eyes, and for half a second it looked as if they were following me. Fuck. I covered my mouth the instant the word escaped. Nothing moved. No dead man sat up, no supernatural nonsense, just decomposition in a sealed room and the smell that seemed to thicken every second I stood there. I've been doing this a long time. I've opened closets and found guns, desk drawers full of pills, once a whole wall covered in photos of strangers taken through bedroom windows. I have a rule: if it isn't what you came for, don't get curious. A human head in a safe qualified as an exception. I shut the door. Click. That one didn't sound nearly as satisfying. Whatever else was in the house, I no longer cared. No amount of cash was worth another minute inside. I packed my tools, killed the light, and headed downstairs. The place was a 3-story house at the edge of an expensive development, set far enough back from the road that the neighboring homes looked like distant shapes through the trees. I'd watched it for 2 days. No lights at night. The SUV in the garage had been gone since Monday. Curtains on the second floor never moved. Every sign said empty. Every sign except the head. I was just reaching the living room when I heard metal turn in the front door. I stopped. 1 beat. 2. The deadbolt slid back. Click. My stomach dropped. No time to get upstairs, no back exit close enough. I pocketed the flashlight and scanned the room. A long couch sat in the middle of the living room. I hit the floor and slid underneath it. The clearance was so low my chest nearly touched the hardwood. The front door opened. Hall light stretched across the floor in a long yellow stripe. I held my breath. Black heels came in first. Then gray sneakers. Then dark leather boots. 3 people. The door closed. Click. The living room lights came on. From where I was, the world ended at their ankles. Heels, sneakers, boots. I breathed slowly through my nose. All they had to do was go upstairs. 5 minutes, maybe 10. I'd once spent 45 minutes inside a closet because a homeowner came back for a passport. Waiting was part of the job. This wasn't different. That's what I told myself until I saw my tool bag. It was sitting beside the couch, outside my hiding place. I dropped it when I dove for cover. I closed my eyes for a second. Idiot. They didn't go upstairs. The heels crossed the room towards me. The cushion above my head sunk as the woman sat down. The other 2 took the couch opposite. "Nice place," one of the men said. His voice was wrong, metallic, roughened, distorted through some cheap electronic filter. The other man laughed. His voice had the same synthetic edge. "Don't get attached. It's not mine. Where's the owner?" A pause. Then the man in boots said, "He's not coming back." The skin at the back of my neck tightened. I pictured the safe upstairs, the plastic bag, the open eyes. I didn't know if the 2 things were connected. I had no intention of staying long enough to find out.
I slowly reached for the strap of my tool bag. It was maybe 18 inches away. If I could drag it under the couch, at least I wouldn't leave proof that somebody else had been in the house. My fingers touched the strap. The woman shifted above me. The cushion frame trembled. My hand bumped one of the wooden legs. Knock. The room went silent. What was that? The gray sneakers turned towards me. I heard something. The woman above my head didn't move. I held my breath until my ribs hurt. "Old house," Boots said. "In a place like this?" "Check if you want." The man in sneakers stood. His shoes came towards me. One step, then another. I slid a hand into my bag and found the handle of a small hammer. I knew better than to think I could fight 3 people. I'm short, lean, narrow through the shoulders. My profession is built around entering empty places and leaving before anyone knows I was there. If a burglary becomes a fight, the burglary has already failed. The sneakers stopped not more than 2 feet from my face. There was dried mud along the edge of one sole. He stood there for several seconds, then turned away. Probably a mouse. I didn't know which imaginary mouse to thank. He sat again. Air leaked out of my lungs. The woman spoke above me. "We starting?" "Let's start." Boots tapped a finger against the coffee table. "Once. Last month, Riverview Towers." My eyes opened wider. That name I knew. "Unit 304?" the woman asked. "Yeah." The sneakers shifted, like the man wearing them was smiling. "You really want to hear it?" "We're already here," Boots said. "Stop performing." A brief silence. Then the filtered voice from the opposite couch dropped lower. The woman's name was Lena Tran. My heart missed a beat. I stayed perfectly still. Not because I was afraid they would hear me, because I knew that name.
Chapter 2. Under the Couch. The note stayed folded inside my palm. "If you want to live, go to the bathroom by the stairs when you get the chance." I wasn't sure what scared me more, the 3 people above me or the woman who had found me and decided not to say anything. I crushed the paper into a tighter square so it couldn't slip from my hand. Across the room, the man in gray sneakers kept talking. Boots had called him Horseman, probably a screen name, maybe just what he used for tonight. It didn't matter. What mattered was that Horseman was describing Lena Tran's murder as if he'd done it himself. "Her hair was still wet when I dragged her out of the bathroom," he said. "Water kept dripping onto her, onto the floor." Boots asked, "Then what?" "Balcony." "Right away?" "Yeah." Wrong. The water trail I remembered didn't run in a clean line from the bathroom to the balcony. It broke in places. One section even curved back toward the living room. I remembered because I'd nearly stepped in it while looking for a way out. Horseman went on. "I wanted the cops thinking jealous ex, revenge, something like that. Women like her—" "How did you know she was cheating?" the woman above me asked. Her question came too fast. Horseman paused. "I told you, I watched her." "How long?" "Long enough." "Do you have proof? You interviewing me now?" Boots gave a short laugh. "Let her ask." The air above me changed. I couldn't see faces, but I've learned not to trust faces anyway. Feet are better. People forget what their feet are doing. Horseman's sneakers turned toward the woman. His stance widened, defensive. The woman, Fox, Boots had called her, stayed seated above me. One heel planted, the other trembled. Boots didn't move. "Keep going," he said. Horseman snorted. She had a husband who traveled all the time. Guys came by when he was gone. What more proof do you need? That was specific. Specific enough to mean Horseman might actually have watched Lena. But stalking someone and killing them aren't the same thing. I started dividing everything he said into two piles. Things a stalker could know. Things only someone inside the crime scene should know. The second pile was getting thin. The cord, Boots said. What kind? A cord. What kind? Horseman waited too long. Why do you care? Because people remember the tools they use. Silence. My heartbeat picked up. Boots wasn't trading murder stories. He was testing one. Blood, the cord, timing. Each question was a pin pushed into the same balloon. Horseman might not have noticed yet. Fox had. So had I. There's one rule on the board, Boots said. Anybody can lie online. The person who really did something remembers what nobody else knows. The room went still. So this wasn't just a meetup. Not for him. Horseman tapped his knee. You think I'm lying? Didn't say that. You're interrogating me. Feeling guilty about something? Horseman gave a dry laugh. Fine, you want details? He gave them. Bathroom shelf, towels, the cord, water, balcony, sliding door. I listened to every word. Part of me wanted him to stop. Another part wanted him to keep digging. He knew Lena kept a narrow wood shelf beside the bathroom sink. Right. He knew the balcony door slid sideways. Right. He knew there was a framed photo on the nightstand, Lena at the beach with a man beside her. Right. He said the frame sat to the left of the lamp. Wrong. It had been on the right. He said he'd gone back for a towel after moving the body. Wrong. The towel had still been in the bathroom. He said the words on the glass were written in blood. Wrong. Small mistakes. If I hadn't been there, I might have believed him. But I had been there. I remembered the room, the scent of citrus body wash in the bathroom, the bottom drawer in the bedroom that had to be lifted before it would open, the lipstick tube near the balcony door. I knew too much. That's what finally made me cold. If Horseman wasn't the killer, why was he claiming the murder? And worse, if he wasn't the killer, the real person who killed Lena Tran had never been caught. Fox tapped the couch once with the toe of her shoe. Not an accident. I tightened my hand around the note. Wait, that's what I thought she meant. Not yet. Then Boots said, Enough. Horseman sounded offended. Enough? I've heard what I need. Whose turn now? Boots laughed softly. In a hurry? Thought that's why we came. All right, want to see mine first? The Boots stood. Horseman stood too. Where? Upstairs. My stomach tightened. The safe. The head. Horseman sounded almost excited. You're serious? Why else would I bring you here? Fox stayed seated for half a second too long. Boots said, You coming? A pause. Then the heels lifted from the floor. Of course. All three sets of footsteps moved toward the stairs. I didn't move. They went up one flight, then another. Silence. I counted to 20. Still nothing. I pulled my tool bag under the couch first, then crawled out. My back felt like somebody had folded it in half. For the first time, I saw the full living room under bright lights. 3 empty glasses on the coffee table. and a black handgun near where Boots had been sitting. I looked at it for 1 second. Didn't touch it. If you find a gun in a killer's house, leaving your fingerprints on it is a poor career move. I went straight for the front door. Quiet. Fast. No running. Running makes noise. The lower lock opened. Click. The upper one didn't. It wasn't the way I'd left it. A reinforced slide bolt had been thrown across the door and secured with a small keyed lock. The key wasn't hanging nearby, not in the shoe cabinet, not on the narrow entry table. Boots had locked the house from the inside. I took out a pick. Given 3 minutes, I could open it. 2, maybe? 30 seconds? I wouldn't bet my life on 30 seconds. I knelt and started working. Tick. I stopped. No sound upstairs. Again. Tick. The mechanism shifted. Good. I adjusted the angle. Footsteps sounded above me. I looked up. Someone was coming down. Fast. I yanked the pick free, shoved it into the bag, and looked at the door. 1 more minute. I didn't have it. The footsteps hit the second floor. The couch was too far away. If I tried to get back underneath, whoever was coming down would see me crossing the room. The staircase opened beside a short hallway. At the end of it was a door. The bathroom. Fox's note. I didn't have time to decide whether I trusted her. I crossed the hallway, slipped inside, and eased the door shut without turning on the light. I didn't lock it. A bathroom latch clicking now would be as good as shouting. The room was almost black. A thin strip of light showed beneath the door. I pressed my back to the wall and slid one hand into the tool bag. Found the hammer. Footsteps sounded below. I didn't move. Boots called from the living room. "Where are you going?" No answer. At first, Fox's filtered voice. "Bathroom." I'd tightened my grip. Her heels came toward me. Tap. 1 step. Tap. Another step. As I glanced toward the living room, I caught a tiny red point near the corner of the TV shelf. Probably the standby light on some piece of electronics. Then, Fox's shadow filled the gap under the bathroom door. The handle began to turn. Click. I gagged her before she could raise her voice. Sorry. I wasn't. I picked up my phone. The screen had locked. When I opened it again, the messaging app had kicked back to the conversation list. I didn't check further. No time. Horseman laughed again outside. I looked at Fox, then at the mask on the floor. An idea arrived. A terrible one. Still better than walking into the living room with my own face. I pulled her farther into the shower alcove. I didn't need all her clothes. Her loose jacket covered most of what I was wearing. The mask, the voice filter, and the heels could do the rest. She was only a little shorter than me, similar shoulders. In dim light, if no one looked too closely. I stared at the door. I couldn't leave. I couldn't stay hidden. That left one option. If I couldn't escape the meetup, I had to become someone who belonged at it. I put on her jacket, forced my feet into the heels, and faced the mirror. A fox stared back. I switched on the voice filter. Click. Test. The voice came out rough, flattened, difficult to place as male or female. I tried again. Test. Close enough. I adjusted the jacket, pulled on gloves, and pocketed my phone. Before opening the door, I looked at the real Fox one last time. She never looked away. I'm borrowing you for a few minutes. I stepped into the living room. Butcher sat where he'd been before. Horseman lounged on the couch. Both still wore masks. Neither could see my face. Good. I walked out. The heels made a sound I immediately hated. Tap, tap. Horseman turned. He watched me for several seconds, then laughed. That was a long bathroom break. I said nothing. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Right, we never got to you. I stopped. His filtered voice sharpened with amusement. Fox, he pointed at me. You don't look like you've ever killed anybody. I looked at him, then at Butcher. Butcher wasn't laughing. He was waiting, and I understood the problem. The mask had only gotten me out of the bathroom. If I wanted to stay alive, I still had to prove I deserved to be in the room. Chapter 3. Fox. The handle turned. Click. I tightened my grip on the hammer. The door opened just wide enough for a person to slip through. Black heels came first. I stayed flattened against the wall and waited until the woman stepped fully inside. 1 step. 2. The moment she reached back to close the door, I raised the hammer. Don't. Her filtered voice was barely above a whisper. She didn't turn around. If you hit me, the other 2 will hear it. I kept the hammer up. Close the door. She did. No lock, just the soft press of the latch. The bathroom went nearly dark, lit only by a high frosted window. The woman slowly raised both hands. How long were you under the couch? Enough. You heard everything? Enough to know I'm in a house with 3 people I shouldn't be meeting. She said nothing. Take off the mask. That isn't necessary. I lifted the hammer another inch. Then I'll do it for you. After a few seconds, she reached behind her head. Click. The fox mask came off. The voice filter went silent with it. She looked late 20s, maybe 30. Dark hair pulled low, face pale with tension. Nothing about her looked like someone who had spent the last hour relaxing with other murderers. That didn't mean much. Faces are costumes, too. Can you put the hammer down now? No. Her eyes flicked to it. Then let's make this quick. How did you spot me? Your bag. I saw the strap under the edge of the couch as soon as I sat down. Then you hit the frame. Why didn't you tell them? Because I'm not with them. Convenient. Believe me or don't, but if Butcher finds you here, what do you think happens next? I didn't answer. She didn't need one. Do you have a phone? Why? I need the police. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because the sentence was ridiculous coming from a woman who walked into a murderer's meetup wearing a fox mask and an electronic voice. You expect me to believe that? The woman Horseman was talking about, Lena Tran. My hand tightened around the hammer. What about her? She was my sister. I stopped moving. Voices drifted from the living room, too muffled to make out. She went on. I got onto that board because I wanted to find out who killed her. You just listened to a guy confess, and you know he's lying. I met her eyes. She held mine. Don't pretend. You didn't react to the murder details. You reacted when Butcher asked about the writing on the glass. I didn't like that. You watch people closely. I have to. Why? Because I don't know which one of those men killed my sister. You suspect Butcher, too? In a place like this, I don't clear anybody. Smart answer. Smart enough that I still couldn't tell whether she was telling the truth. Why come alone? I didn't exactly. I gave a detective the first meetup location before I left, told him if I stopped responding, something had gone wrong. First location? Butcher changed it 4 times. At the second stop, he took everyone's phones. Then we switched cars. We didn't get the next address until we were already moving. She held up the fox mask. Masks and voice filters were his idea, too. The pieces fit. That didn't make them true. How did you get onto the board? I posted. A kill? A fake one. So you pretended to be a murderer? Yes. And now you want me to trust a professional liar.
This time she didn't argue. She held out her hand. "You don't have to trust me, just give me your phone." I looked at her palm. One part of my brain said this was the cleanest exit I'd get. Police arrive, the 3 people outside get arrested, I live. The rest of my brain pointed out that I was standing inside somebody else's house with picks, gloves, zip ties, and enough burglary tools to turn one bad night into every bad night I'd ever had. This wasn't my first job, just the first one likely to uncover the others. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That maybe you stab me the second I hand it? You're holding a hammer. I worry about people who have reasons to lie." She glanced toward the door. "We're running out of time." She was right. If Fox stayed in the bathroom too long, Butcher would notice. I pulled out my phone. She reached for it. I didn't let go. "No calls, text only." She nodded. I handed it over. The screen lit her face in the dark. She opened messages, typed a number I didn't recognize, and started writing. I caught the first words. "Current location." A bad feeling rose in me. "Hey," she kept typing. "Wait, I'm almost done." Police. The word ran a circuit through my head. If the message went out, they came here. If they came here, I didn't disappear before they checked everyone in the house. I looked at my tool bag, at Fox, at the door. I grabbed for the phone. She held on. "What are you doing?" Changed my mind. "Are you insane?" "Maybe. The police are the only way we get out of this house. They're the only way you get out clean. You think those 2 men are going to let you walk? They don't know I exist. Yet." I hated that she was right. I hated the police option more. "Give it back." "No. Give me the phone." "You—" I dropped the hammer hand and seized her wrist. She reacted immediately. We slammed into the wall in the cramped dark. Her heel scraped hard down my shin. My shoulder hit tile. She twisted for the door. "Let go." "No." Horseman laughed loudly in the living room. For a few seconds the noise covered us. I wasn't much stronger than she was. I had one advantage. I'd already decided what I was willing to do. When the struggle ended, she was sitting on the floor with her wrists cinched together using zip ties from my bag, still conscious and looking at me like she wanted to kill me herself.
The room went dead quiet. "I was never inside that condo that night," Butcher asked. "Then where did your details come from?" "News." "And the rest?" Horseman swallowed. "I knew her." "How?" No answer. Butcher applied pressure again. "Okay, Jesus, I lived in the same complex." Butcher stopped. "I noticed her." "Noticed?" "I liked her." The words stripped something out of his voice. No swagger left, just resentment. "She acted like she was better than everyone. Husband gone all the time. I tried to talk to her. She treated me like garbage." "What happened?" "She slapped me, threatened to call the cops if I kept following her." Butcher said, "So you wanted her dead?" Horseman didn't answer. "Say it." "When I heard she'd been killed?" He gave a small, ugly laugh. "I was glad." Nobody spoke. "Then I found the board, joined, started saying it was me." "Why?" I asked. Horseman looked at me. For the first time there was no bravado in him at all. "I wanted to know what it felt like." What felt like? People believing I did it. And suddenly I understood the worst thing about him. Not that he had killed Lena. He hadn't. It was that after she died, he still wanted to own her death. Butcher released him. Horseman collapsed onto the floor, clutching his wrist. Butcher stood over him, then slowly turned toward me. Cold moved down my spine. Horseman had been stripped clean. Fake killer. Which meant a new question had taken his place. If Horseman knew less about Lena's murder than I did, what exactly was I in Butcher's eyes? He came toward me and stopped close enough that I could see my reflection in the dark surface of his mask. "All right," he said. "One beat. Horseman has explained himself." He tilted his head. "Now explain you." "You don't look like you've ever killed anybody." Horseman was still laughing. I stood less than 10 feet from the couch, my feet pinched into Fox's heels, my face hidden behind her mask, my voice buried under her filter. Those things could hide who I was. They couldn't tell me what Fox had posted on the board. I glanced at Butcher. He sat exactly where he'd been before. The handgun rested on the coffee table. His hands were loose on his knees. No smile, no impatience, just attention. Horseman accidentally asked the same question Butcher wanted answered. If I dodged it, I was exposed. If I invented some random murder, all they had to do was remember Fox's old posts. There was only one case I knew well enough to survive questions about it. It was also the worst possible case to choose. I sat where Fox had been sitting and kept my knees close together so no one would notice how unnatural the heels felt. Riverview Towers. Horseman's laughter stopped. What? I looked straight at him. Lena Tran. Silence settled over the room. The air conditioning hummed above us. Horseman leaned forward. What did you just say? I said I killed Lena Tran. He shot to his feet. You lying bitch! Sit down, Butcher said. Horseman stopped. She's stealing my story. I heard her. Then sit. Butcher's voice dropped half an inch and somehow got heavier. Horseman looked at me, then at the gun. He sat. I couldn't tell whether I'd bought myself 5 minutes or cut 5 minutes of my life. Butcher said, Tell it. I put both hands on my knees so they wouldn't shake. I got into the condo after 10. Lights were off. Horseman scoffed. Same time I gave? You can't even make up a new hour? I ignored him. I went into the bedroom first. Butcher tilted his head. Why? Too fast. I lost half a beat. I thought the place was empty. You were there to kill someone, but you needed to check whether she was home? I looked at him. Do you want to hear this, or do you want to tell it for me? A pause. Then a faint laugh. Go on. I took a breath. What came next wasn't entirely a lie. That was what made it dangerous. There was a framed photo on the nightstand. Lena was barefoot on a beach, carrying her sandals in one hand. She was laughing crookedly toward the camera. A man had his arm around her. Nobody interrupted. The bottom drawer stuck. You had to lift it slightly before it would slide out. There was jewelry inside. Horseman stopped smiling. Butcher asked, You take it? I picked some up. Then what? Put it back. Why? I heard something outside the room. I didn't say what. Less detail meant fewer places to fall through my own story. There was water on the floor when I came out. Horseman snapped, Because I dragged her from the bathroom. I turned toward him. The water didn't run straight from the bathroom to the balcony. He stopped. It broke in places. One section went back toward the living room. He pointed at me. You're using what I already told you. Then explain the towel. What towel? You said you came back for it after moving the body. The towel was still in the bathroom. His foot shifted. Small. Enough. I was winning. Against him anyway. Butcher said nothing, which worried me more than anything Horseman could do. Horseman leaned forward. Maybe you showed up after I left. That proves nothing. You just said you killed her. I did. Then when did you leave? He opened his mouth, closed it. You told us how you got in, how you killed her, how you moved her. You never said how you got out. Why does that matter? Because the person who really was there remembers the small things. I borrowed Butcher's language on purpose. Behind his mask, I couldn't see a reaction. One finger tapped his knee once. Horseman said, Fine, you say you did it. What did you kill her with? My turn to pause. If I repeated his answer, I looked like a copycat. If I gave a different answer, I created another lie to defend. so I refused the premise. "I don't need to tell you everything." He barked a laugh. "You're asking me to prove you're lying. I'm not asking you to believe me." "You're dodging." "No, you are." Horseman stood again. Butcher didn't stop him this time. He wanted to see what happened. Horseman pointed at me. "You think I'm fake? Prove it." I'd been waiting for that. "The writing on the glass." His hand lowered a little. "What about it?" "You said blood." "Yeah." "It wasn't." "You sure?" "Yes." "Then what was it?" My pulse beat high in my throat. The police had never released this detail. Once I said it, Horseman wouldn't be the only person listening. Butcher would be too. I had already gone too far to back away. "Lipstick." Horseman went still. "Bullshit." "You sure?" "Yes." "Then what was it?" "Nothing." I smiled behind the mask. "Don't remember?" "Why would I remember women's makeup? You remember using blood, but not the thing you supposedly held in your hand. I remember the shade." That part was a lie. I remembered the tube, not the brand or color name. Horseman didn't know that. "Want me to tell you?" He stayed silent. Butcher spoke. "Horseman." His voice was calm. "Was it blood?" "Of course." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." "No second thoughts?" "No." Butcher leaned back. "Keep going, Fox." I didn't like the way he said the name. Not belief, not suspicion, more like he'd placed another piece on the board. I pushed on. Chapter 5. Butcher. "Explain you." Butcher stood in front of me. I said nothing. Horseman's breathing filled the room. He sat on the floor beside the coffee table holding the wrist Butcher had twisted. The empty handgun lay nearby. Nobody reached for it. I stopped looking at it too. Sweat crawled down my temple beneath the fox mask. "You knew about the lipstick," Butcher said. "I told you that." "You knew the towels stayed in the bathroom." "I told you that too." "You knew the bedroom drawer stuck." I looked at him. "Want me to start over?" "No." He pulled out a chair and sat across from me. No gun between us now. He didn't need one. "I want to know how you know those things." I kept my filtered voice level. "Because I was there." "The night Lena died?" "Yes." "Before she died or after?" My heart stalled for one beat. One beat can be too long. "Trying to catch me like you caught Horseman?" "Maybe." I leaned back. "Then keep asking." He didn't. He just watched me. I hate people who know how to use silence. You can answer a question. Silence makes you answer yourself. Horseman laughed weakly from the floor. Now the fox gets skinned. "Shut up," I said. "You think you beat me?" "I wasn't playing with you." He braced a hand against the floor and started to rise. That woman deserved what happened to her. If I'd really killed her, Butcher turned his head. Slowly. Horseman didn't notice in time. I wouldn't have regretted it. Married and still. Butcher stood. No warning. He crossed the space between them, grabbed Horseman by the hair, and hit him. The sound was smaller than movies make it. Horseman went sideways into the couch. "What the hell?" Butcher pulled him up and hit him again. Blood appeared at the corner of Horseman's mouth. I stayed where I was. Butcher had used force before to control him. This was different. This wasn't necessary. "Don't talk about her like that." His voice was so low the filter almost disappeared. Horseman breathed hard. "What was she to you?" Butcher didn't answer, but I heard what I needed in the silence. From the beginning, he had been the calm one. Horseman bragged. Butcher questioned. Fox tensed. Butcher watched. I lied to his face. Butcher waited. Even the done was planned. But one insult aimed at Lena Tran and he lost control. Not principle, not disgust. Personal.
Butcher zip-tied Horseman's wrists behind him and pushed him against the couch. "Stay there." Then he came back to me. There was blood across one knuckle. He took a tissue from the table and wiped each finger slowly. For several strange seconds, the room became almost peaceful. Air conditioning, a wall clock advancing 1 minute, a car passing outside and disappearing down the road. I realized I was waiting for him to explode again. Instead, he became calm. That frightened me more. "Continue." "I've said everything." "No. How did you get into Lena's condo?" I considered the answer. "Door. Locked? Don't remember." "You don't remember getting into a place where you supposedly killed someone. Some things aren't worth remembering. But the stuck drawer is?" I didn't answer. He stepped closer. "The more you talk, the stranger this gets." "How?" "You remember the apartment better than you remember the murder." My hands went cold. He was right, because the apartment was real. The murder story I'd just told was not. I needed him looking somewhere else. "You care about this case a lot." He stopped. "You've asked more questions than anyone here. You knew the writing wasn't blood. You knew Horseman was wrong before I said it, and the gun was a test." I tilted my head. "So what is tonight really about?" Horseman looked up from the floor. Butcher kept his face turned toward me. "This isn't a killer's meetup. You're looking for someone." The room tightened. I knew I'd hit something. Before I could push further, Butcher bent and picked up the handgun. He didn't point it at me. He dropped the empty magazine, then tucked the weapon into his waistband. The motion pulled his collar aside. Just enough. A piece of tattoo showed on his left shoulder. I stopped breathing. Nothing dramatic. A black curve, 2 narrow lines crossing below it. Only part of the design. I'd seen it before. Not tonight. Not in this house. In Lena Tran's bedroom. The beach photo on the nightstand. I remembered it because the frame had sat beside an expensive watch. I'd picked up both and weighed which one was worth taking. Lena stood barefoot in the sand, sandals dangling from one hand, hair blown across her cheek. Her smile pulled slightly to one side, like the photographer had caught her between laughing and complaining about the wind. A man stood beside her with his arm around her shoulders. Tank top, left shoulder exposed. The same tattoo. I looked away from Butcher. Too much attention and he'd notice. I lowered my eyes to the blood-stained tissue on the table. The photograph came back in full. Lena's crooked smile, the sandals in her hand, the tall man beside her. At the time it had meant nothing to me. A family photo has no resale value. Now I knew who I'd been looking at. Lena Tran's husband. Horseman spoke from the floor. "You knew her, didn't you?" Butcher turned toward him. Quiet. Horseman gave a painful laugh. "I knew it." Butcher took one step. Horseman shut up. I looked again at Butcher's shoulder. His collar had fallen back into place, hiding the tattoo. It didn't matter. Everything rearranged itself. The questions about the lipstick, the cord, the timeline, the private board, the locked house, the unloaded gun, his reaction to Lena's name. Butcher hadn't brought people here to swap stories. He had built tonight to find the person who killed his wife. Horseman had just proven he wasn't that person, which left me, the only person in the room who had just announced, "I killed Lena Tran." My stomach tightened. I'd told a lot of lies tonight. This might have been the most dangerous one. Not because it was false, because of the man I'd chosen to tell it to. Butcher turned back. "Something wrong?" "No. You've gone quiet. Thinking. About what?" For the first time that night, I wasn't thinking about the door, or the hammer, or Fox tied up in the bathroom. I was thinking about one thing. If Butcher really was Lena's husband, he didn't need to prove I was lying. He only needed to believe me. That was worse.
Chapter 6. The false fox. If Butcher really was Lena Tran's husband, I had one way to keep him from killing me. Give him someone else. I looked at him through the fox mask. You want to know why I know so much? Butcher said nothing. Horseman looked up from the floor. Because I know who killed Lena Tran. The room went still. A lie only works when the person hearing it wants it to be true. Horseman had just proven that. Now I needed to see whether Butcher would too. He stepped closer. You just said you killed her. I said that to see how much Horseman really knew. So your story was fake? Half. Which half was real? I was inside Lena's condo that night. One of his fingers flexed. The line under my feet got thinner. Too little and he wouldn't believe me. Too much and I'd hang myself with my own details. Which half was false? He asked. I didn't kill her. Who did? I let the question hang. A brown notebook came back to me. The stuck drawer in Lena's bedroom. I'd opened it because I thought there might be cash inside. There wasn't. There was a journal. I hadn't read the whole thing. Burglars have schedules too, but I'd flipped through several pages looking for hidden money or cards. One line had stuck because it sat alone between blocks of crossed-out writing. I hate Dad, but Mia isn't Dad. Why do I get angry before I even answer when she calls? The same name appeared again and again. Mia. I said, her sister. Butcher went very still. Horseman frowned. Who's Mia? Nobody answered him. Butcher asked, where did you get that name? Her journal. Where? Bedroom, bottom drawer. The stuck one? Yes. His gaze stayed on me. I couldn't tell whether the answer helped or hurt. What did she write? I don't remember all of it. But you remember Mia. She came up a lot. Relationship? I rebuilt the fragments I'd seen. Half-sisters, same father. Lena's mother never forgave him for the affair that produced Mia. Lena mostly cut that side of the family off when she got older. Horseman muttered, and that means murder? Butcher looked at him once. Horseman shut up. I continued. Mia still came to Lena for help. What kind? Money. A pause. How much? Don't know. I only read a few pages. Butcher moved closer. Then why are you saying Mia killed her? This was the dangerous part. I couldn't tell him the real reason I knew the truth wasn't what Horseman had described. I could only build a story that fit whatever suspicions he already had. I was inside Lena's condo before everything was over. I heard two women arguing. Saw them? Not clearly. Then how do you know one was Mia? Lena said her name. That was the first completely invented detail. I kept my voice steady. Mia came from money. At first they were talking, then it turned into a fight. I heard something about a hospital, their father, bills. Horseman murmured, sounds believable. Butcher ignored him. Then? I hid in the bedroom, heard water, heard them arguing again. Butcher cut in immediately. Mia had already left. I stopped. Only half a second. He was testing me. I don't know that. You just said they argued again. I said I heard a woman again. But you didn't see her. No. Then why are you still calling her Mia? I said nothing. The room changed. Horseman looked from me to Butcher. Butcher asked, is Mia right-handed or left-handed? I didn't know. How tall is she? Silence. Any tattoos? Sweat collected under the mask. These weren't questions about a murder theory. They were questions about a person. And the woman pretending to be Fox should have known the answers. Why does that matter? Answer. I don't. You're accusing Lena's sister of murder, but you don't know what she looks like. Wrong turn. I'd gone too far. From the moment I walked out of the bathroom, I assumed Butcher knew Fox through an anonymous board, mask, voice filter, screen name.
But if he was Lena's husband, he might know Mia, or at least know what Mia should know about herself. He stepped closer. "You said you read the journal. What did Lena call her father?" I stared at him. "What?" "At home, what name did she use for him? What did Mia call him?" "Nothing." Horseman began to understand. He gave a ragged laugh. "Maybe this one is fake too." "Shut up," I snapped. Too fast. His laugh widened. Butcher raised one hand and Horseman stopped. Then Butcher looked only at me. "When did you join the board?" I remembered what the real Fox had told me. "After Lena died." "How long after?" "I don't remember." "Fox made her first post 11 days later. What was it about?" "I didn't know." "You forgot the murder you used to get onto the board?" He knew, or close enough. I stood. "Does that matter? I just told you who—" He caught my wrist, fast. I tried to pull free, couldn't. He yanked me off balance, then reached for the fox mask. I twisted away. Too late. Click. The clasp opened. Cold air hit my face. Butcher stared at me. I stared back. For the first time that night, he saw who was actually behind the mask. Horseman's mouth opened. Then he laughed. "Holy shit!" Butcher's expression didn't become angry. It became colder. "You're not Fox." I didn't insult either of us by denying it. "No." "Who are you?" "I told you, I was inside Lena's condo." "Who are you?" "A burglar." Horseman stopped laughing. Butcher looked at Fox's jacket on me, then the heels, then the hallway. "Where is she?" I said nothing. His grip tightened. "Where is Fox?" "Bathroom." He let go immediately and turned. After 2 steps, he looked back. "Alive?" "Yes." "Why are you wearing her clothes?" "Because the door is locked. I was trying to get out." Probably the truest sentence I had spoken all night. Butcher went down the hallway. I rubbed my wrist. Run. That was the thought. But the front door was still locked. The key might be on him. Horseman was still against the couch. Fox was tied in the bathroom. The situation couldn't get worse. Then something hit the bathroom wall. Butcher's voice followed. "Come out." No answer. "Now." A moment later he reappeared, pulling the woman I'd tied by one arm. She stumbled after him, hair loose, gag still in place, red marks around both wrists. She saw me. Her expression promised that if we both survived the night, she would deal with me personally. Butcher tossed the fox mask onto the floor. Clack. He ripped away the gag. She coughed. "Listen to me." Butcher grabbed her chin and forced her face up. For the first time that night, all control left him. Mia. I went still. So did she. Butcher stared at her. "There you are." I looked at Fox, then remembered the journal, the name I'd just used to save my life. Mia Tran, Lena's younger half-sister. Fox wasn't only investigating her sister's murder, she was the person I'd just blamed it for. And from Butcher's face, I knew he'd suspected her long before I ever opened my mouth.
Chapter 7. The Night Lena Tran Died. "There you are," Butcher said. He still had a hand under Mia's chin. She looked at him now, not at me. After a moment, she asked, "How long have you known?" "Long enough." "Then why bring me here?" He let go. Mia dropped onto the edge of the couch, wrists still bound in front of her with my zip ties. Horseman immediately shifted farther away. An hour earlier, he'd been bragging that he murdered her sister. Now he couldn't meet her eyes. I stayed near the coffee table and tried to make myself irrelevant. It didn't work. Sooner or later, Butcher would come back to me. I only needed Mia to give him something else to think about first. "Who are you?" she asked. Butcher said nothing. No, Mia said. You don't get to do that. If you know me, I get to know you. You still think this is about what you get? She went pale. Butcher reached behind his head. Click, the mask came off. I already knew. Still, when the man from Lena's beach photo appeared under the living room lights, my stomach tightened. Older now, thinner, eyes hollowed by a month of not sleeping enough, but unmistakable. Mia recognized him immediately. Daniel! Her voice dropped. He set the mask on the table. Hi, Mia. Horseman stared between them. Wait, what? Nobody cared. Mia said, When did you get back? The day my wife died. She lowered her eyes. Daniel pulled a chair across from her and sat. You went to Lena's condo that night. Not a question. Mia said nothing. The building cameras caught you. The police know. They know you arrived. They don't know what happened inside. Mia looked down at the red marks around her wrists. I told them. You said you dropped something off and left. You said there was no fight. Silence. Was that true? Still nothing. Daniel waited. I knew that kind of silence now. Mia flexed her fingers. What do you want me to say? The truth. Would you believe it? Try me. She closed her eyes for several seconds. When she opened them, she didn't look at him. Dad was in the hospital. Nobody interrupted. I needed money. How much? Does it matter? It mattered to Lena. Mia's mouth tightened. She said if the bills were real, she'd pay the hospital directly. She wouldn't give Dad cash, not $1. Daniel showed no reaction. You knew how she hated him. Go on. I heard it as her judging me, like I was asking for a handout instead of trying to keep him alive. I wanted her to help once without making me feel dirty for asking. And you still heard her answer as no. Yes. I remembered the line in Lena's journal. I hate Dad, but Mia isn't Dad. I'd used that sentence to build a lie. Now the real woman was sitting in front of me, turning that lie almost true. We fought, Mia said. About money? At first, then everything else. Dad, our mothers, who abandoned who owed what? Her voice began to shake. I called her selfish. What did she say? I don't remember. Daniel stared at her. You remember. Mia looked up. She said I was just like him. Daniel didn't move. Then you hit her? No, she shoved me. I shoved back. Then? Mia stopped. Her fingers locked together until the knuckles went white. Daniel said her name softly. Mia. She let out one breath. I put my hands around her throat. Horseman looked up. I didn't move. Neither did Daniel. How long? He asked. I don't know. Did you know if she was breathing? I didn't check. Why? For the first time, panic showed in Mia's face. Because she stopped moving. I called her name, shook her. She didn't answer. Daniel's voice stayed level. So you decided she was dead? I thought she was dead. The sentence seemed to lower the temperature in the room. Not, I killed her. I thought she was dead. I looked down before anyone could read my face. Daniel asked, Then you called 911? Mia closed her eyes. No. Police? No. What did you do? A long silence. I panicked. What did you do? I thought if the police came, my life was over. The sentence sounded familiar in a way I didn't like. Mia continued. There were stories about attacks on women around the area. I thought if the scene looked like something a stranger had done. Daniel cut in. You staged it. She nodded. Balcony? Yes. Writing on the glass? A pause. Lena's lipstick. Horseman lowered his head. Nobody needed to look at him. His confession had just died a second time. Then, Daniel asked, I left. What time? Close to 11. She was still on the balcony? Yes. Did you come back? No. Daniel watched her for a long time. You're sure? I'm sure. My throat dried. Mia looked at him. You wanted the truth. That's it. Not all of it. You joined the board. She stiffened. A new account called Fox appeared 11 days after Lena died. You thought if someone on the board claimed the murder, police attention might move? No. Then why join? To find whoever knew things they shouldn't, or to find somebody willing to take the blame. Mia's eyes flicked toward Horseman. One glance. Enough. Horseman swore under his breath. Daniel continued. Then he showed up. I didn't create him, but you let him keep talking. I needed to know if he really had been there. And when you realized he hadn't, Mia said nothing. I finally saw the full shape of the room. Mia joined the board because she was afraid. Horseman joined because he wanted to be feared. Daniel joined because he wanted a killer. 3 people arrived at the same place carrying 3 different lies. And me? I had only picked the wrong house. At least that was still the story I preferred. Mia asked, "How did you know Fox was me?" At first I didn't. Fox kept asking about one murder and never posted anything believable about her own. Then I found the board administrator. I looked up. So did Horseman. Daniel went on. He kept admin logs, contact information, old message records, more than users thought he kept. Where is he? Mia asked. Daniel looked toward the stairs. No explanation necessary. I pictured the safe on the 3rd floor, the plastic bag, the open eyes. Mia understood too, her face drained of color. Horseman whispered, "The head." Daniel looked at him. Homeowner, board administrator. That was enough. The house wasn't random. The head wasn't a trophy brought here for the meetup. Daniel had found the man behind the board, taken access to the administrator account, and used his house as the trap. You killed him? Mia asked. I had a man claiming he killed Lena. Then Mia, and someone who spent months asking questions only family would care about. So I invited both of you. To kill us? To find out who was lying. The empty gun, the questions, the locked door, everything fit. Then Daniel looked at me, and I got an extra guest. I knew the moment had come. He stood and walked toward me. Burglar. I said nothing. You said you were inside Lena's condo that night. Yes. Mia says she left around 11. What happened after she left? The wall clock ticked. Once. Twice. I don't know. You don't know? I was stealing. You remember the water, the towel, the bedroom, the lipstick? I saw them. After Lena was dead? Yes. Daniel stopped in front of me. You're sure? What do you want? I want to know whether my wife was alive when you saw her. I laughed. It sounded wrong even to me. You're inventing this. Answer. No. No, she wasn't alive? I don't know. Wrong. 2 different answers. I heard it the moment the second one left my mouth. Daniel heard it too. What did Lena do when you saw her? Nothing. Where was she? Balcony. Position? Don't remember. But you remember a lipstick tube. I stayed silent. He didn't give me time. Where was Lena's phone? The question came fast. My answer came faster. She couldn't reach it. The entire room stopped. I heard my own words as if someone else had said them. Daniel didn't blink. Couldn't reach what? No answer. Horseman stared at me. Mia raised her head. Daniel repeated it. Couldn't reach what? There was no good sentence left, because Daniel had never said Lena tried to get her phone. Mia hadn't said it either. That detail had never entered any story tonight, except mine. Daniel stepped toward me. I stepped back. After Mia left, my wife was still alive. No. Then how do you know she tried to get her phone? Gas. No. He came closer. The front door was too far. The hallway gave me nothing. Daniel reached for me. Then from somewhere beyond the house came a thin, rising sound. A siren. We both froze. Another followed. Closer. Mia turned toward the front door, and I remembered my phone in the bathroom, her fingers moving across the screen, current location. I'd thought I'd grabbed it back in time. Apparently, I hadn't.
Chapter 8. The Witness. The sirens got louder. Daniel turned toward the front door. 1 second. I ran. Not for the exit. I already knew it was locked. I cut around the coffee table, trying to put furniture between us. Stop! I didn't. A chair went over behind me. Then footsteps. Daniel caught my collar at the mouth of the hallway and yanked me backward. My back hit the wall hard enough to empty my lungs. He pinned me there. My wife was alive. Not a question. I clawed at his wrist. Get off me! After Mia left, Lena was alive. You're out of your mind. The phone. How did you know? I told you I was only stealing. His face was inches from mine now. No mask, no electronic voice. For the first time, I heard Daniel's real voice without anything between us. Hoarse, exhausted, and more dangerous than anger. She saw you, didn't she? I said nothing. Behind him, Mia jumped to her feet, wrists still tied. The police are here! She ran toward the front of the house. Daniel turned. I shoved him hard enough to get half a step of space and slipped sideways. A heavy impact hit the front door. Police! Everything stopped. Horseman shouted, We're in here! A voice outside came back through the door. Everyone inside, show your hands! Do not move! Mia shouted, We're locked in! Daniel looked at her, then at me. Something in his face changed. His night was over. He had built the house into a trap for everybody else. Now he was trapped inside it too. Another hit shook the door. Then another. Daniel came for me. Not the exit. Me. Maybe he had decided that if he couldn't get the truth, he could at least keep me from carrying it away. I dodged. He crashed into the edge of the table. I shoved a chair between us. Stay away from me! He knocked it aside. Horseman curled closer to the couch. They're cops, you idiot! Daniel didn't hear him, or didn't care. The front door burst inward. White flashlight beams swept the room. Police! Hands! I raised mine immediately. Daniel didn't. He kept moving toward me, one hand dropping toward his waistband where he'd tucked the empty gun. Don't reach! He kept moving. A gunshot cracked through the room. Daniel jerked sideways, one hand clamping over his shoulder. The empty pistol fell free and skidded under the edge of the coffee table. Gun! Every officer's attention snapped toward it. One officer drove Daniel to the floor. Another kicked the weapon away and ordered Horseman face down. The room broke into noise and motion. Mia ducked toward the doorway, then recoiled when Daniel twisted on the floor. Her shoulder hit the small table beside the couch. The table went over. A lamp shattered. Half the room went dark. An officer shoved me down behind the displaced couch. Knees, hands on your head. Stay there. I obeyed. A flashlight beam swept across the TV shelf. For one instant, that tiny red point I'd noticed earlier glowed in the darkness. The same stupid standby light. Then I saw Mia. She had fallen on the far side of the couch, less than an arm's length from me. The couch back blocked most of her from the officers at the door. She was looking straight at me, not Daniel, not Horseman, not the police. Me. The rest of the room seemed to get quieter. I knew what she could tell them. The burglar under the couch, my phone, the bathroom, the struggle, the zip ties, her jacket and mask, me pretending to be Fox, the things I knew about Lena's condo, the lipstick, the bedroom, the stuck drawer, the thing Lena had tried to reach after Mia left.
All Mia had to do was put those facts in the right order. The police didn't need the whole truth yet. They only needed the right question. Mia opened her mouth. Everybody stay where you are!" an officer shouted. Mia tried to shift out from behind the couch. I was still kneeling beside her. Witness. The word appeared in my mind with absolute clarity. Witness. I didn't have to cross the room. She had landed beside me, and for a few seconds the officers were still dealing with two uncontrolled men and a gun on the floor. Mia looked at me. "Don't." I leaned toward her. There was no long argument inside my head, no moral debate, just a choice, the kind my body seemed to recognize before my mind admitted it. I kept her from moving. She fought me, wrists still bound. Behind the couch, most of her was hidden from the doorway. Over my shoulder came commands, radio chatter, horsemen swearing, Daniel shouting something I couldn't make out. Everything was happening 10 feet away. It felt like another room. Mia stared at me. In the last seconds, the anger in her face changed. Understanding. Maybe she finally put together the same pieces Daniel had. Why I knew so much, why I was afraid of the police, why I answered the question about Lena's phone before I could stop myself. She tried to say something. I couldn't hear it. Then she stopped fighting. I let go. 1 second. 2. She didn't move. I pulled back and shouted, "She needs help!" An officer turned. "She's not breathing!" 2 people rushed over. I moved aside with my hands up. One officer dropped beside Mia, another looked at me. "What happened?" "I don't know." My breathing was real. My heart was hammering hard enough to hurt. "Him!" I nodded toward Daniel. "He came at us when you came in. I think he did something to her." Daniel lifted his head from the floor, face gone pale beneath the sweat. "You—" An officer forced him down again. "Don't talk." Daniel kept trying to see me. "He killed!" "Stay down!" I didn't respond. Mia lay between 2 officers while one cut the zip ties from her wrists and another called for EMS. I looked at the red marks I'd put there. Done. She couldn't tell them what happened in the bathroom, couldn't tell me I wore her mask, couldn't repeat what I'd said about Lena's phone. Daniel could talk, but Daniel had a severed head in a safe upstairs. He had built a fake killers meetup, locked everyone inside, and charged me in front of police with a handgun in his waistband. Between his story and mine, I knew which one I wanted the police to hear first. Horseman was different. He'd heard things, but he hadn't been in the bathroom. He didn't know me before tonight, and he'd just admitted to stalking a woman and pretending online that he'd murdered her. I still had a way out. An officer came to me. "Turn around, hands behind your back." I did. The cuffs closed around my wrists. Click. A familiar sound. I looked at the floor and didn't resist. Running now would make me the person they needed to chase. I needed to become something else. A victim. An unlucky burglar. An idiot who picked the wrong house. Red and blue light washed through the broken doorway. More units arrived. Paramedics came in. An officer returned from upstairs looking different than when he'd gone. We found a body, part of one. The officer holding me said, "Where?" "Wall safe, 3rd floor." Daniel closed his eyes. Good. The house was speaking for me now. Dark web board, severed head, masks, gun, 1 man shot, 1 woman down. Too many things for the police to look at all at once. I only needed to be the least interesting one. They took me outside. The night air felt unreal after hours in the house. Emergency lights flickered across the trees. Neighbors stood beyond the tape. A paramedic looked at my wrists and asked if I was hurt anywhere else. "I'm fine." "You know the people inside?" "No." "Why were you here?" I looked back through the open doorway. Daniel was being brought out on a stretcher under police guard. Horsemen followed in cuffs. I couldn't see Mia. Another officer stepped in front of me with a notebook. "Start at the beginning. Who are you?" I took a breath.
This was what I was good at. Not locks, not hiding under couches, building a story close enough to the truth that people stopped digging. I looked him in the eye. I was just here to rob the place.
Chapter 9. The Last Story. I told the police a simple story. That's the trick. Complicated lies break. Simple lies borrow the shape of the truth. I was a burglar. I watched an expensive house for 2 days, thought it was empty, and broke in. I opened a wall safe. Found a head. 3 people came back. I panicked and hid under the couch. After that, everything got out of control. Most of it didn't require invention. At the station, a detective read me my rights. I said I understood them. Then I told him I wanted to explain. He sat across from me with a legal pad. You know any of the people from the house before tonight? No. Mia Tran? No. The man using horseman? No. Daniel Mercer? I shook my head. No. He watched me for a moment. Lena Tran? I kept my face still. From the news. That's it? That's it. He wrote something down. The room was small and too bright. A paper cup of water sat untouched between us. My wrists hurt from the cuffs, even though they'd been taken off for the interview. I was alive. That was the important part. A burglar caught inside a murderer's house was still a burglar, but it was a much better story than the alternatives. What did Mia tell you in the bathroom? Not much I remember. She wanted to contact police? Yes. Why did you restrain her? I exhaled. I panicked. Because of police? Because of everything. I'm a thief. I didn't want cops arriving while I was standing in somebody else's house with a bag full of burglary tools. Also true. The best lies need bones made of truth. You then impersonated her, so the other 2 wouldn't realize a stranger was in the house. And you claimed you killed Lena Tran. I needed them to think I belonged there. You knew a lot about Lena's crime scene. Here it was. The answer I'd been building since the ride to the station. I'd been inside that condo before. His pen stopped. When? After the murder. To burglarize it? Yeah. It was a crime scene. Not forever. He looked at me. I shrugged. You want me to tell you I'm a good person? I'm not. Sometimes admitting the smaller crime makes people think you've stopped hiding the larger one. The detective wrote again. For the first time all night, I began to think I'd survived the hardest part. Daniel was alive, but Daniel had a dead man's head in a safe. Horseman was alive, but Horseman was a stalker who went online and pretended to be a killer. Mia wasn't going to tell anyone anything. I only needed my version to hold long enough for the police to drown in everyone else's. I stared at the water cup. Exhaustion settled over me. Not fear, just exhaustion. And when I'm tired, my mind goes places I don't invite it. Back to Lena's condo. Not the version I gave Daniel, the real one. That night I entered while the condo was empty. At least I thought it was going to stay empty. I went through the bedroom, stuck drawer, jewelry, beach photo, brown journal. Then I heard the front door. I didn't have time to leave. I hid. Lena came in with another woman, Mia. At first they talked, then they argued. Something hit the floor. Footsteps, a hard impact, then silence. I stayed hidden. Not my problem. After a while, Mia began moving through the condo, dragging something, wiping things down, opening the balcony door. I didn't understand what she was doing until she left. I waited another 5 minutes, maybe 10. Then I came out. Lena lay motionless. I thought she was dead, same as Mia. All I wanted was to leave. Then Lena took a breath. Small, barely there. I stopped. Her eyes opened. I don't know whether she saw me immediately or needed a few seconds to understand there was a stranger in her home. I remember her face,
The same slight pull at one corner of her mouth from the beach picture was gone. There was only confusion, pain, and then recognition. She tried to move. "Don't scream," I said. She didn't. Maybe she couldn't. Her eyes went toward her phone on the floor, then back to me. I understood. If she lived, she would remember my face. Police would ask why I had been there. They would find prints, old cases, other houses, everything. I could have run. I could have let her reach the phone. I could have accepted that one burglary had gone bad. But in that moment, none of those options felt real. I saw only one thing: a witness. Just like tonight, Mia had looked at me that way. Lena had looked at me first. I moved toward her, and when I left the condo that night, Lena Tran was actually dead. I removed what I could that pointed to me and left most of Mia's staging untouched, an accidental gift. Police looked for a killer who had created the scene. Mia believed she had killed her sister. Horseman later volunteered to take ownership of the rest, and I went back to stealing. Until tonight. "You okay?" The detective's voice brought me back. I looked up. "Fine." "You went quiet." "Long night." He closed the pad. "We're done with this statement for now." I almost smiled. Not free, I had admitted to burglary after all, but still alive, still one story among several. I leaned back. Maybe that was enough. The door opened. A second detective entered, carrying a laptop. He set it on the table. I looked from him to the first detective. "What's that?" The second one opened the computer. The house had a concealed camera in the living room, standalone unit, local storage. Something cold began moving up through my stomach. I remembered the tiny red light beside the TV. I'd seen it twice and never understood what I was looking at. The video appeared. The living room, the couches, the coffee table, a high angle looking down. For the first few seconds there was no sound. Then I heard my own filtered voice. "I killed Lena Tran." The detective skipped ahead, Horseman taking the gun, Daniel restraining him, my fox mask being ripped away, my face filling the screen. Skip, police entering, flashlights, Mia falling behind the couch, me leaning toward her. I stopped watching. I didn't need the rest. The detective froze the video with my hands on Mia. No accusation, no shouting, just the image. For the first time all night, I understood why Daniel had never been afraid of anyone lying in that house. He hadn't only been listening, he had been recording. The first detective pushed the untouched cup of water toward me. Then he asked, "Want to start again from the beginning?" I looked at my own face on the screen. All my life, I'd been good at finding an exit, a window, a lock, a sentence, some way out. This time I looked for one for a long time. There wasn't one. And for the first time in my life, I couldn't think of a story.